because they did not make their own skin. They were made by God. Does my heart want to see these fans? We need some more. Now, what happened to us? Well, I have to ask this question from an MCC point of view, even though I am a new thing but lately come in when it comes to MCC. What happened to MCC? Well, in the first 10 or 15 years of MCC's life during the 1970s, it was, as Nancy Wilson puts it, a free-for-all. I think I mentioned to you that people were just sent off with a bus ticket and they were told, plant a church. Because it was vital, it was desperate that the word was heard by people who were facing death, who were facing the divorce from their families, who were facing suicide and imprisonment throughout this country. And there was not time to plan it into abstraction. There was not time to be certain that it was going to work perfectly before you tried it. You just had to try it. You had to act on faith. Like the disciples, you had to walk out without a haversack, without taking the food for you. Nancy Wilson says that her first plan that Troy gave her was basically, here's a bus ticket, go to Detroit and plant a church. There was a plan B. Plan B was, if that didn't work, then on the way back you stop at Lansing and you plant a church there. But they didn't have any money, they didn't have any resources, half the time they hadn't been to seminary, they didn't have any of those things. They had faith. They had a lot of faith.
Amen.
And it was expected that they would go there, find a job, doing anything. Just enough to put bread on the table, and they'd plant a church. And gradually that church would grow, and eventually they'd have a salary, and they could give themselves full time to it, and that's what would happen. And you know, that's what did happen. That's what happened in hundreds of churches all over the country. Some of them failed, a whole lot of them survived. You're in one now.
I was about to say, still
You're in one now. And I am reliably informed that some of the early pastors of this church in the 1970s were characters. Characters. But then something happened. And what happened was AIDS. And from being that church, we became the church with AIDS. All our resources, all our hopes, all our compassion, all our love was poured into the existing churches. Was poured into the clergy who were dying on a weekly basis. Was poured into the people who were dying day by day, several funerals a week, no hope whatsoever. And the pastors were burning out, spending all their time with the partners of the dying and the family of the dying, seeing them thrown out of hospitals, not wanting to be touched by funeral homes. We know the story. Some of you may not know the story. Well, we are the custodians of that story. We can tell you the story. We can tell you the story. So we were the church with AIDS. Come 1995 and 1996, blessed deliverance. Triple combination therapy came along, and all of a sudden, people stopped dying like they were before. And then a few years later, a politician, I believe in Eastern Europe, described MCC as the human rights church. And we began to move into phase 3 of our incarnation, the true phase of our incarnation. What MCC actually has always been. Because you cannot be a follower of Jesus Christ without having consideration for justice and the dignity and value of the human person. Amen. The reason that we spend all our time preaching to people that don't want us to preach to them, by and large, is because we have value for the human person which other groups do not have. Because you cannot have value for some human beings. What it means is you have value for their attributes, not for humanity. You have value for human beings who are A, B, C, and D, not for human beings. And therefore, either you have value for all human beings or none. You discover that the thing you have value for is something else. And again. I think part of the problem is you're all scattered all over the place. And if I was going to be one of those pastors, I'd move you all into the front pews so that we're a bit closer. I want to read you something that was said to me last week. The name has been changed, and I cried after I read this. Dear Reverend Crawshaw, your church ministry has helped me so much in the past month. I have always felt strong homosexual attraction to other men, but suppressed them because of my Catholic upbringing. Then I decided to drop God completely, since the church made me feel like he didn't love me, because of my sexual orientation. Then my drama teacher from the high school told me about you and your church. God bless her. My high school recently caused a scandal with our production of the Laramie Project. In the past month, I have come out to my friends, teachers, and most importantly, my family. My immediate family supports me and still has some doubts, but your website is helping tremendously. We have agreed, however, to keep this knowledge from my strongly Catholic grandparents for fear of breaking their hearts or alienating them from us. They don't talk about gays in a bad way, and in fact have some gay friends, but we think that they would not accept one of their family members to be gay. I'm fine with this anyway, because they treat me with love and compassion in all other endeavours. I just wanted to share my deep appreciation to you and your church for the help and support that you have given by merely being a presence on the web. My relationship with the Lord is healing, and I am accepting myself as well as praying that others will accept me as well. Amen. Amen. The last 2.5 years were worth every moment for that alone.
That's right. Amen.
For that alone. I said to him, I messaged him back and said, oh dear, but to think that what is happening here could make it better for people than it was for me.
That's right.
Because that has to be our guiding principle. That we have a special insight. We have to help others because the love of God has come down upon us and it's given us an insight. It's given us a relationship which has saved us.
Amen.
Which has saved us.
Yeah. Come on.
What are we if we decide to sit here and settle? What are we if we decide, well, do you know, I can just about live now without people killing me, so I'm going to sit here in comfort. I don't care about others. I've done my fighting. Well, we are now strong and we have a loud voice. We are here to do their fighting. For teenagers up on the riverbank that have no one to fight for. For disabled people who are housebound in Arkansas and get all their spiritual nourishment now from this church, from what goes on in this church, from the messages I have from all around the country and from in England of people who have been touched by what is happening in this church. And this is where I have to come down to it. The Christian experience has nothing to do with what some people say, and I understand it's meant honestly, and it's not meant by this, but many people say, oh, well, I'm not being fed by that. We're not here to feed, church. We are not here to feed. We need to take off our bibs and put on our aprons. We are here to serve. We are servant leaders, and we are leaders. The witness said 300,000 unique hits on our website. 300,000 from a group that was written off by everyone 2.5 years ago. Russ gave me a program from the old church from the beginning of 2007. Do you know how many people were in attendance? 13. Wow. 12 people. That's how many people were here. And now it's gone across the world. It's gone across the country. It's gone across the city. Most people know us. Most people know us. Even if they're not here, they know us. Trust me, I get the pastoral calls to show they know us. What matters now is that we fail and we cease seeing our spiritual lives as consumerism.
That's right.
God save us from that nonsense.
That's right.
We do not go to church because we want to consume something, that we want something nice to happen to us. We go to church because we are ready to serve.
That's right.
This is a recruitment station, for goodness sakes. You don't go to the army recruitment and say, well, what can you do for me?
That's right.
Because no doubt they give you the marching orders. Well, we as a church should be more ready to give people their marching orders. We are there to heal those in need of healing, but we're not there to feed those who are already gluttons. Because this is a consumer society. We are not here to feed into that. We are not here to feed into that. Dear God, no. We need a whole bunch of people who are ready to serve. Because, as it was ever true, the laborers are few. The laborers are few. I want to tell you about one extraordinary man based in Guadalajara. Our man in Mexico, Hector Gutierrez. This is what